Howdy, I'm Brian Foley. I'm a criminal defense lawyer here in Conroe, Texas, and I represent folks who've been accused of crimes in Houston, the Woodlands, Conroe, and the surrounding areas. So today we're going to be back again with the dirty little secret in criminal law. Today's crime is going to be DWI on prescription drugs. So the big question here that I get is, can I get arrested for DWI if I was prescribed the drugs by my doctor? You know, like I have a prescription for Xanax. I took some Xanax, but, you know, it wasn't any illegal substance. It wasn't cocaine. It wasn't methamphetamine. It wasn't, you know, alcohol. So the short answer there is yes, you could be arrested and you could be convicted for driving while intoxicated if the substance is a prescription drug. There's two big categories of prescription drugs that sort of get people in trouble with this. One is CNS depressants, so that's CNS meaning central nervous system, and then the other one is narcotic analgesics, okay? And so the first one's CNS depressants, that's going to be what they call benzodiazepines, and those are things like Xanax, which is, that's the common name for it. The scientific name is alprazolam. And if you're taking Xanax or something like that, they call it a benzo for benzodiazepines. That's going to be a central nervous system depressant. Alcohol is also a central nervous system depressant, and they have the same effects on people. Not exactly the same, and so there's a little room for argument there. But it'll do things like slow your reaction time, slur your speech, things like that. One of the things that we look for to defend a case with benzodiazepine is or any prescription drug really, is the therapeutic level. So if we get a blood test back and it says that you're in the therapeutic range, that means you're taking it as prescribed by your doctor. But the real question is not going to be what level were you at or was it within the therapeutic range. The question is going to be, did you lose your mental or physical faculties based on the introduction of alcohol? So that other category, some examples, or one big example that I see frequently in the narcotic analgesic category is hydrocodone. That gets prescribed quite a bit for pain. People will take it, not realize that it is affecting them, and through no fault of their own really get accused of a DWI. Now, if you have been following the news, there are even some prominent officials in Montgomery County who have had a DWI related to not alcohol, but sometimes prescription medication. So it's something that can sneak up on anybody. You know, sometimes when people think of a criminal, they think, or a criminal case, they think of somebody with a bunch of tattoos or they're in a gang or something, but it's like this could happen to really anybody at all who's taking prescription medication. And if it's happened to somebody you know, you need to make sure that you talk to a lawyer quickly so that they can get started on the case. So what evidence would be important in a DWI prescription drug trial? Well, what we're going to want to know and what the jury is going to be able to decide is, you know, what is your level? What is your normal abilities? Maybe you have a medical condition that is, you know, debilitating and it's not easy for you to walk a straight line under any conditions. And then the other thing that officers will sometimes do, they will collect information from the scene. So if they did not collect the pill bottle or the prescription, then they may be under the assumption that you have the pills illegally. And if the pills are held illegally, there's really not a penalty for that. But sometimes a jury will feel a little more willing to look at the case with a more critical eye if you had a prescription and you were following the prescription and this is really not an intentional act. There is no requirement for the prosecutor to prove intent, but when you're looking at that video and trying to decide, is this person intoxicated beyond a reasonable doubt, you know, the highest burden in our system, then knowing all the facts and knowing the person's medical condition can be a big help. What is the punishment for DWI on prescription medication, that is going to be a Class B with a minimum punishment of 72 hours in jail and all the way up to 180 days in jail, up to a $2,000 fine. Now, you could get probation and avoid that jail time, or there's a possibility that we could work out something with the prosecutor's office where they give you credit for time that's already served before you bonded out of jail. And so there's a bunch of different options, even on a first-time DWI. If it is not a first DWI, it's a second DWI, then whether it was on prescription drugs or alcohol, that's going to be a Class A misdemeanor. And if it's a third DWI or more, then it'd be a third-degree felony, 2 to 10 years in prison, and up to a $10,000 fine. So what is the dirty little secret related to DWI prescription drugs? Well, that is the difference between synergistic effect, additive effect, how narcotic analgesics affect you, and how benzodiazepines and CNS depressants affect you. There's a guy, a type of police officer called a DRE, or a drug recognition expert. And there's been some case law that says if you don't have the opinion of a drug recognition expert saying that that drug is active in their system, then it may not be relevant for you to, as a prosecutor, to admit evidence in a blood test that shows these substances in your system. And so that is a big time attack that people are really not as aware of, and it's sort of the dirty little secret there with this crime, is that if there wasn't a DRE on scene, you could have a good reason to have the prosecutor reduce your charge, reduce your punishment, or just dismiss the case altogether because there won't be enough evidence to convict.